Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hypothetically Speaking, where we talk about anything unexplained, unsolved, and unnatural. I'm Bree,
I'm Morgan.
And I'm Allison.
and tonight we're going to talk about a very weird night uh, that occurred in the 60s in Texas. Uh, an event that's been like locally called Satan's Storm. Have either of you ever heard anything about this before?
I have not, and when I heard the topic, I figured going into it blind would be the most fun.
Yeah,
Yes, I was. Yeah, I mean, it fits the location of Texas so far.
it
It
does.
really does give the vibe. What year was this?
This was in 1960
Okay.
uh n on in 1960
Okay.
specifically. Yeah. I couldn't remember the exact year, but yeah, this was a very small community that this happened to, and it was a very odd phenomenon. So basically, the dog days is a very common way to describe the final miserable weeks of summer. Historically, this time period was denoted by the heliacal rising of Sirius, also known as the Dog Star. Sirius is part of the constellation Canis Major, or the Greater Dog, and is the brightest star in the night sky. Hellenistic or Greek astrology connected this time with surprising thunderstorms, heat, drought, fevers, mad dogs, and bad luck. Last year, we learned about the corn sweat across the Midwest region, and none of us could shut up about it, but to be fair, who could? Especially when British rage baiters say it's so much worse on their pleasant, ocean-surrounded island. Get bent and go eat
Yes.
beans.
I do love when they complain about it being 70 degrees and all the people in the American South go, "Huh?"
The one girl's a troll. I swear it. People keep it because she keeps doing it. I'm
Yeah.
like, she has to be a
Yeah.
troll.
And like
Not
I
that
know that they don't
it's
have
so
AC,
it's
but
so hot here.
It and she's got a sweater on. It's
well,
like,
and it's like dry heat too, so it's not even there's some level of humidity, but it's
hmm
not like the humidity you get in certain parts of the US for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. Like once we
You know,
like learned the
for the
term.
record, yeah, for the record, Vermilion is at the same like latitude line as like Rome, Vermilion, South Dakota.
Yeah.
hmm I didn't know
Is at
that.
the
That's
same,
interesting.
Interesting.
yeah. So it's like when it's so hot in the summer, you're like, that's why, because it's at the same latitude as Rome, and we don't have the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And it's so cold in the winter because of the jet stream.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also because we don't have the Mediterranean.
And we
It's
don't have
just
trees to or
yeah.
hills to buffer.
Yes.
The wind really is the problem, as is the refrain of the Midwest. If it weren't for the
Yep.
wind, it
If it
would be
weren't for the
fine.
wind.
If only.
So yes, my hate for the rage baiters from the UK aside, I'll digress. We all know that the middle of the United States famously gets hot and miserable around July and stays that way until the end of August and sometimes early September. While we may not have the highest recorded temperature on record, we are very great at complaining about the humidity. By the way, the honor of the highest temperature goes to Furnace Creek Ranch in Death Valley on July 10th, 1913, where they recorded an astounding 134 degrees Fahrenheit or 56.7 degrees Celsius at 2 p.m. that day. However, the subject of today's episode is a night speculated to be even hotter. So we are going to discuss what the locals call Satan's Storm.
When we say speculated, did like all of their thermostats break or something? Like, why do we not know what temperature it was?
It, we don't have specifically recorded temperatures of the
Okay.
time it was happening because this is a
Okay.
very brief event.
Okay. Got it.
Um, this was it took place kind of in the middle of the night. And so there is some like witness data of like this is what people saw
Okay.
with the thermometers, but we don't have any meteorological recordings
Okay.
of it
Nothing very official
specifically.
from like a weather service or something.
Yeah.
It's just someone was like, "Well, I was looking out my window and my thermostat said it was this temperature out," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is really wild though. Um, so let me introduce you to our setting a little bit. Copperell, Texas is an unincorporated community in Bosque County, Texas. It's roughly in the mid-east of our biggest continental state. According to census data and local records, population peaked in the early 1900s with 329 in 1904 and 500 in 1908, before declining to 225 and remaining about that size since the 70s. So very small. It's a census designated place as of the 2020 census, which is closely settled but not connected communities that are locally recognized but not under a larger governing body.
Yeah.
So
So
they
it's,
aren't
–
like a satellite town. Like they
yeah.
don't really fall under any specific like local government jurisdiction.
Yeah. It's not like they're like considered a suburb of Houston or something. They're just a
Yeah.
random, rather small place.
Yes, it started as a regional shipping point along the Gulf, Colorado, and Santa Fe Railway, which this ran from Galveston, Texas to Santa Fe, New Mexico, until they reorganized a few times between the late 19th century and mid 20th, as railways tended to do at that time. Like a lot of the region, the climate in Bosque County is characterized by hot, humid summers and mild, cool winters, according to like the scale of like regions of, I can't think of the word for it, but like the regions of temperature, it's considered a
Okay.
humid subtropic region with
Okay.
along with a lot of Texas. So not arid, more humid.
Okay.
So what happened in Corporal is a little after midnight on June 15th, 1960, something very strange occurred. So more normally the night provides some reprieve from summer heat, but this was not the case that night. A dying thunderstorm overhead caused an extremely hot wind to rip through the area, raising temperatures dramatically in a matter of minutes. Uh, Reports include hurricane force winds of up to 75 miles per hour.
Ooh.
Um, Locals report it feeling as if you basically like stuck your head in an oven. Crops were shriveled and blackened when inspected the next day, and reportedly temperatures reached a staggering high of 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The what people saw was a thermometer on a building basically like maxed out because the highest it
Oh,
can go is 140.
that, yeah, that sounds like a real bad time.
Pretty toasty.
I have a really poor constitution for high temperatures personally. It gets like past 70 degrees and I'm like, I don't I don't know, like I'll probably be fine, but that sounds kind of sweaty to me. And that truly sounds horrible.
I think
Yeah,
75 is like lovely if you're not like doing anything,
Yeah.
but the moment I'm like moving my body like
You
at
start
a
walking and
like
you're like, I don't know about that.
at a pace other than the most leisurely stroll one could have, I get warm.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and like I don't know. South Dakota is known for pretty high temperature change. I mean, Spearfish holds a record for it. With like going amount of change, it got really, really cold really, really fast and then dropped back down.
Yep.
Like cars driving on the interstate had their windshield ice over while they were driving because the temperature dropped too fast. Um, and like windows broke and stuff because it just was too much temperature change. So like we definitely see that, but when we see dramatic change, it doesn't get that sweaty. And
Hmm.
honestly, I don't love the cold. I would rather have it change like that and get cold than get that hot though, personally. Because like I don't know, I can go get a blanket or like a coat or something. You can really only take off so much before it gets socially unacceptable and doesn't help you anymore. Like it's
yeah.
I don't know.
I enjoy being warm, but I'm a temperature rotator where it's like if I'm at a pool and it's hot out, I can get hi, where you're on hypothetically speaking. You weren't in my camera if it helps. Um, special guest star, Brayden's shadow. Um, I love to like be by a pool and it's like, okay, I'm too hot. I can dip in the pool. Now I'm a little, now I want to get back out and be a lizard in the sun. Or like
Yeah.
a bath. I will never just sit in the bath because it has to be boiling hot. I need to be soup. But then I'm like,
Too
I'm
hot.
too hot. And so I will sit on the towel and then I will get back in the tub.
Yeah, I have a really high core temperature and awful circulation, so I have cold hands and feet. But I hate wearing socks because then my feet get warm and then I all the way overheat because my core is so hot. So I need to take off socks and stick my feet out, even though my feet get cold, to like control the temperature. Otherwise, I lose my mind just a little bit. So I'm real sensitive about temperature I want it to be. So I think I would hate this like a whole awful lot.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
I
I'm
can,
not that sensitive necessarily, but
But
I
like
do think I would also hate
to
this.
be so hot that plants just give up, like that is rough.
yeah, I like a good day, like a hot day with like a nice breeze, not like a hot breeze. I can
Yeah.
totally do that. I love that.
Yeah.
I am much more willing to tolerate being a little warm than being a little cold, but I'm not a big fan of either extreme. Like last summer when we were visiting family in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
we were supposed to go, and it would have been bad either way. We were supposed to go to Martha's Vineyard. We ended up having to go to Nantucket, which I know sounds like the most pretentious fucking complaint in the world. But
Heaven forbid.
the ferry we got
Yeah.
tickets for was not going to the place that we thought. That's all.
Oh,
Uh, we you get there and it's a hot day. It was not supposed to be as hot as it was, and you're by the ocean. You think it's fine. Wrong. The entire island is cobblestone. So you're just in a literal oven on a
Yeah,
record
to
hot
bake.
day
That's
in
fun.
Massachusetts. It was a little miserable at the end. There were some like fun shops and stuff, but once you run out of stuff, because if you're, in our tax bracket, you very quickly run out of things to do on Nantucket.
Uh,
Um,
that's so for real.
I'm still not over the three shrimp on my salad being a $15 upcharge. What do you mean? That's
oh,
$5 per
what?
shrimp.
Are these like jumbo shrimp or like
That's
normal shrimp?
They
crazy.
were big shrimp.
But like
But like,
still
but like,
15?
$15.
And like islands can
okay,
be more of
so,
a struggle, but also islands is where
okay,
seafood's supposed to be cheap. Like I could get seafood for cheaper here in South Dakota, and we are so landlocked. That is not
yeah,
like the best seafood, but like you could get it for cheaper. You're on an island.
you
What do
can
you
get it.
Yeah.
mean?
You can get it like cheaper in Minnesota, I
You,
think.
yeah.
And it's probably not that like less fresh if we're being honest. Like
Yeah, and like
the thing
I know
they're
some of
doing
their
with
stuff
freezers
is
nowadays.
fresh caught, but
Yeah.
like it's really
I don't know.
cool.
But it's also like it's a fucking shrimp.
It's a
Like, are
shrimp.
you really gonna be able to tell how the difference?
I'm
I don't
glad
know.
my water bug cost that much. Thank you. It was good
And
shrimp.
I,
It
I
was a
guess
decent salad.
I guess I've never had
It's
enough shrimp
it
to
better
like
be.
totally know the difference because like texturally shrimp gets me. It's kind of rubbery for me. You have to chew too long. It makes me wig out a little bit. Um, but like I don't know. Like shrimp seems like there can be some level of quality difference, but it doesn't seem like it would jump that much
Yeah.
to me in my head,
And like
I think
all of it
it
was
depends.
expensive. It's also I guess
Yeah.
like but yeah, that's the whole deal. Is like it's an expensive place because
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
very like we were like, doing a lot of window shopping because everything costs like
A gajillion
a
dollars
gajillion
in
dollars.
this economy.
I did get some stuff, but it
Yeah.
did like it was like, the usual stuff. You get a sweatshirt and a
Yeah.
t-shirt. The
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Um, yeah, anyways, it was very hot
Yeah.
and it wasn't even reaching this level of temperature because I do personally I think humidity really does make or break it where it sucks, but a truly like hot, dry day is not
Yeah.
better. Like it is a
Yeah.
different kind of bad.
You bake in a different way. Um, so out of curiosity, I guess, was the like primary thing of this being really hot during like midday, or was this more like evening time?
This
Like,
was
how
in
weird was this?
this was in the middle of the night. This happened at
Okay, yeah.
12. It happened at midnight. People genuinely panicked and even kind of thought like, is this the end a little bit? It lasted for about 4 hours. People found it difficult to breathe, especially like young children and older adults. And so people
Oh.
were using like wet towels to cover the faces of like children and stuff so they could breathe easier.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
That's like what you start to get into if you're like in evacuation zones for like fires and stuff, like
yeah.
where the air gets so hot it's hard to breathe. Like that would be horrifying to like not have a cause of that and to just be like,
hmm
I don't know, it's just so hot. I know it's 12 p.m., but
Yeah,
yikes.
it was terribly so. Um, So there I do have some quotes from an interview that took place after this happened. Thank you very much. I want to give the physical shout out so I don't forget to do it later. The YouTuber I really enjoy who does like weather videos who gave me this topic idea, Swaggle Studios is the one who found these interviews in an archive, which I'll mention more later. But I have these quotes because of him. And I really appreciate that. One quote from a local is, well, about 12 last night, the lights and air conditioners went off. And so we went outside where we thought it'd be cooler, but instead of being cooler, why the temperature was about 100 degrees and just like a hot blaster of air out of an oven hitting you in the face when you went out there. It was so hot you couldn't stay out there. Um, One farmer ended up opening his cellar to about 20 people. He said, my ears were popping, so I just thought I'd get up and go down to the storm house. A lot of company came in, about 19, I believe, all told. And one woman who ended up going to that cellar said, the wind was so hot, I thought the house was on fire, so we went over to his cellar. Um,
Oof.
the same resident who gave the first quote, he said he had called the electrician because the power was out. And when the crew radioed in from Copperell, they said it was so hot they thought they had the truck heater on. Um, Another local reported a thermometer literally bursting. Um, and so residents tuned into the news the next morning. It subsided around 4 a.m. Like it did go away, but people were like, "What happened?" They were expecting news from more like news stations from the bigger areas around. But nothing was mentioned at all. This event was exclusive to Copperell.
I I've definitely seen like the line in traveling of where you hit the rain stopping or the snow stopping, or
hmm
like you can see where like if I were to travel from school back to home where I would check the weather and it's an absolute blizzard in the Black Hills and there's nothing on the other side of the state.
Hmm.
But you don't usually see that much of a temperature jump to where like you're like historical and monumental. This is awful to like absolutely nothing in other places all that often. I don't feel
Yeah, it's
like even if you can,
definitely weird.
yeah. And like bigger
Also,
towns might be warmer usually, if anything, because there's more concrete and it's
hmm
like it holds heat more.
yeah, but if this was just like air, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be necessary. And also like the weirdness to have like being in Texas, it's yeah, of course it's hot in Texas, like it's Texas.
Yeah.
Um, but for it to be hot during the nighttime when there's no sun, I can only imagine how eerie that is.
Hmm.
Yeah, like you don't
especially
ex
something so suddenly.
every once in a while you'll see a thing where like the high for the day is at night, but it's not usually what you anticipate, especially in summer. Like
Yeah.
in winter, sometimes you'll see it a little more, but during summer, you
You
do
have
not
like a
anticipate midnight being your high.
if you
Yeah,
have
like
like a
cloud
hot
cover.
Yeah.
a heat front moving in and you might have that, but like
Yeah.
otherwise,
Hmm.
and for something to happen so suddenly is also very strange.
Because normally you're like the weather systems of the day, right? Or like
Yeah.
the temperature drops one, obviously, because the sun is gone, so
Yeah.
nothing, your surrounding area is no longer baking and putting off
Yeah.
heat because it's the sun is out. But it's also like uh there's other factors in place, like usually the dew point drops overnight,
Yeah. Yeah.
which generally I tried to keep it fairly layman, but like if you aren't in the know, I wasn't. The dew point is really where that like humidity level comes from,
Yeah.
where it's a better
And
gauge of how humidity feels than just saying how humid it is.
I also think dew point can help you figure out if things will be frozen in the morning. So, like looking at what the
Hmm.
dew point is versus the temperature overnight, a lot of times I can predict if there will be ice on my car or not when I wake up to go to work. So I know if I have to like try to get stuff done because I'll have to scrape off my car with a little bit more accuracy. So, like if the temperature is colder than the dew point, it won't always freeze, but it's a lot more likely that it will.
Hmm.
Yeah. The general rule of thumb is that less than 50 degrees dew point is dry. Between 50, 50 and 60-ish is like pretty pleasant. Beyond that, it's sticky. Beyond that, it's like very humid. Beyond that, it's like full tropical, which my favorite is the like NBC 5 scale, where they say that 70 to 75% dew point is air you could swim in, consider moving to Antarctica. And 76 and above, what did I do to deserve this forsaken realm of despair? That is their official ranking.
It gives a similar vibe to like using the Waffle House scale on like how
Yeah.
bad something is. Like that gives a very similar energy and I like it quite a lot.
Because like that is what weather is like. Is it that's like
Yeah.
the physical aspect of it of like this is we can use all the numbers and data we want, but this is what it's gonna actually feel like when that's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Which I love that human aspect of it. I find it really endearing. Um, so that record temp we talked about of 140 degrees was never officially recorded. It just like people weren't worried about that. They didn't even in their interviews ever mention the temperature beyond that they were certain it was above 100 degrees. Um, so we'll never know exactly how hot it got that night, but the surrounding evidence shows it was a very significant raise in temperature.
And if people are seeing 140, that is like the top of most standard
Hmm.
thermostats. And so like unless you have specialized equipment, like no one's really gonna know an exact gauge of that.
Yeah, and we didn't really like that wasn't as much of a thing in the 60s. Like
Yeah.
we weren't that advanced yet to the stage we're at now with a lot of like weather radar and stuff like that, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, so there's a newspaper clipping I have. My teleprompter, my iPad is over here, so I'm sorry I keep looking off. But this the report said freak hit wave hits Lake Whitney, which is the lake that Copperell is on. Tuesday night, residents in the vicinity of Lakeside Village and Mooney Village experienced a freak weather condition that caused a considerable damage and aroused fear among the residents. Intense night heat that generated destructive windstorms, unroofing a number of buildings and toppling power poles and trees, climbed to 96 degrees. Residents, when their coolers stopped from the power failure, sought relief on the outside and found it hotter than inside. Water in radiators of cars driven during the time were said to boil, and corn and cotton that the day before looked fine was burned to a crisp. The weatherman reported that the temperatures must have been reached nearly 140 degrees for a brief time in spots. Pressure dropped swiftly, and the glass in the Mooney store shattered outward. A number of the residents sought safety in a storm shelter. The heat inside one resident's house was so intense he thought his home was on fire. Um, so a little bit more on that. So the events are not very well known. This is a pretty obscure topic. It's probably one of the more obscure ones we've covered. Besides like the weird cryptids, I'd say. Uh, but we're very fortunate to have these testimonies of people who were there. This is video I'm quoting from video footage from WBAP TV's photojournalist Floyd Bright's interviews he did. So yes, thanks to again to Swaggle Studios and the North Texas University Archives for finding this footage and then maintaining it, respectively. Um, there was very strong wind damage evident, trees uprooted or knocked over, debris from smaller structure. The convenience store in the area was in shambles. Like they said, the windows were blown out. Um, and wind speeds seem to be like roughly a damage equivalent of like an EF1 or EF2 tornado.
That's a lot. I know there's been a lot of wind stuff like for Wyoming and parts of South Dakota and a little bit of Montana and stuff for the last little bit. And like we had to
Well,
like
there's
cancel
been like
schools and things because there was so much like so many issues with power outages and things like that. So like high winds just like on their own are rough.
Yes.
yeah, we've had like a number of tornado warnings in Minnesota too, and I
Yeah.
know there's been like I have a friend down in Kansas,
Yeah.
um, and there actually like was tornadoes, I think.
Yeah. Well, and like high wind when it's mixed with that heat, you talked about like people losing shingles. I could see where that would just absolutely melt most of the like almost tarring to like keep your roof down. And
Mm-hmm.
with that mixed with wind, it would mess up. I feel like it would smell bad. Like I feel it'd be
Probably.
so hot that like it would smell a little bit like things are burning even if they're not.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
do. I have a guilty love of that, like right when the rain hits the hot asphalt smell. Like I
Yeah.
know it's like
Mm.
disgusting, but I'm also like, yes, I like it. It smells good. Um, so the other really big evidence we have of how hot this got is that the crops were very crispy. A local farmer, Pete Burns, said, I I miss spelled stocks apparently. And it's his cotton socks. His cotton stalks had darkened and you could literally crunch them in your hands like they had been frozen in liquid nitrogen.
Ew.
Oh, that's fun.
Like they were fully like when you see a plant that's been entirely dried out over the course of like a long time, they
Yeah.
grow very brittle. It was like that level of brittle. 'Cause there is a
Jeez.
bit of video of them crunching some of them. He was quoted, I plowed this cotton yesterday. Today, you can see it looks like a blowtorch has ru been run over it, and the same with the corn across the road. We also cut some hay the day before. Normally, it would take about 2 days for it to cure, and it was cured overnight. We had such a hot wind.
Jeez.
That's
Was this
wild.
what time of year was this?
This was in June. This was June
Okay.
15th. So not in really like the peak of summer yet, not even summer yet,
Yeah.
technically it was spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not when you would anticipate it getting that hot
No.
for sure. Like Texas does get that warm, but like
Oh
that's
yeah.
not really when you would anticipate those
Not
really, really
usually
high temps.
140 degrees in the middle of the night.
No. For a
Yeah,
couple hours, like I weather's so weird. I don't it's odd.
it is. There is, I will spoil it. There is a thing that happened, like it is now a recorded thing, but it was a relatively unknown and understood phenomenon at the time. So the night has, of course, been immortalized in local folklore as Satan's Storm, and it generally fell out of relevance for a long time until other connections started getting made to other events. So the incident in Copperell was of an unknown origin at the time. Um, I had written in my notes I thought it was the first on record. It was not. There are some older accounts of some similar stuff. Um, so this did happen. It did occur, and like there is a lot of things that let you know it was extremely hot, no matter what temperature it was. The real mystery is how hot it was, and unfortunately, we do have no way to know that. But from people talking about the cotton crop specifically, cotton is very resilient. It will it'll wilt and it'll kind of get sad, according to a comment at about like 110.
And like
But
it's very well evolved to being warm.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's what its general environment is supposed to be. So
hmm
like
But it usually bounces back, like a
yeah.
lot of plants in that area do. But the fact that these crops were completely like scorched is very odd. Is like that's one of the main things that really tips me off to something really weird happening. Um, but today we have come to understand what Satan's Storm was. It is a recorded but relatively rare meteorological phenomenon known as a heat burst.
Okay.
Um,
good description so far.
yes.
Sounds accurate. We love creative naming conventions.
Um, so generally a heat burst occurs when thunderstorms continue to generate strong winds while they're in their sort of death throes. Uh, air mass thunderstorms, which are single cell mild thunderstorms. So thunderstorms come in a couple different ones. The least severe is a single cell. Um, and heat bursts have generally come to be known as Satan storms after the Copperell heat burst. Um, Generally, like how thunderstorms work is that they're most common in the evening when warm air is drawn up from the day and it begins to cool and condense. Thunderstorms are create thunder and lightning because they are more unstable than regular rainstorms. The atmosphere is more in conflict, and that's what leads to those like charges being created to make like changes in pressure
Yeah.
and electrons and all the stuff in the air.
It makes the high winds make more sense too.
hmm
Like that's usually tied with pretty high winds, and it's a lot of times the start of what you'll see before you get a tornado. So
Yeah.
that part tracks a little better too with that.
So, high power winds are created due to the interaction of high and low pressure
Yeah.
systems. Thunderstorms can be completely dry or they can produce rain. And also multi-cell thunderstorms are generally a lot more severe than single cell, with the most severe being supercell thunderstorms, which sometimes rotate on their own and have the capability to produce strong winds, large hail, water spouts, and of course, tornadoes. Um, that's why if you see the clouds a turning, it might be time to keep an eye out for some bad things to come. Uh, so the general thing that happens with heat bursts is that sometimes a storm has used up all its precipitation by the middle of the night, and this basically create makes the air up in the storm cloud superheated, because of the changing pressures. So that is what creates the heat bursts. And
Got
with the
it.
general life cycle of a thunderstorm, this often happens in the middle of the night.
Are
Although,
there
go ahead, go ahead.
are there like specific environments where this is more likely? So like you'll get like a rain shadow effect or something where it's like a little more
Hmm.
determined by like geography. Is this purely like a just where winds meet up kind of thing, or is there like geographical regions that are a lot more likely to experience this?
Um, I'm not certain. It seems pretty common amongst the plains as well as
Okay.
deserts because there are accounts of it happening
Yeah.
um in Texas, in Iowa,
Okay.
in New Mexico, and in Australia as well.
Which I guess I can see any area that gets more heavy thunderstorms to tornado weather probably being more
Hmm.
likely to have this, but
I think generally areas that like can be hotter, like
yeah.
don't have like water to regulate them are
Yeah.
kind of more common, it seems. And thunderstorms seem to be the most common cause, but there is at least one that's been recorded without one.
Okay.
Um, and I believe that one was in Kansas. With no rain to condense and cool the surrounding clouds, the air becomes heated, which creates a strong, dry gust of wind that continues to warm up as it moves downward. So the hot air replaces the cool air on the ground, which the comparison made was it's similar to like blowing down on a puddle of water.
Yeah.
That's
And
like
like
the air
generally
displacing the cool
as
air.
Oh.
yeah, and like as a general rule, warm air rises, but like if there were enough pressure to force all of the warm air down, like it would take the higher temperatures that were probably created during the day and it would just be a little more in contact with you, I guess.
Hmm. Um, so the general like effect is very similar to very strong downdraft, which is called a downburst, which is basically the high pressure air seeks the ground level low pressure, which is normal. That's how we get wind. But then when it's very targeted in a specific area and it's very strong winds, that's sometimes called a downburst, which is potentially dangerous. Um, this, because the air is so hot and it's getting hotter, temperatures can spike up to 40 degrees, often in the middle of the night. This sudden shift can rattle windows and confuse or frighten people. It's it has a lot to do with the pressure too, is that that pressure change can cause a lot of weird stuff to happen.
Yeah, 'cause like high temperature change can definitely shatter glass, like it happens, but if you combine that with pressure, I could see where that would also become more probable.
Yeah. Um, so we don't unfortunately have like concrete data on the Copperl event, but we do have a few other heat bursts that we can compare it to. Historically, there is a record in an old Georgian scientific journal. I think that's where it was from. But I quoted it. Uh, this might have occurred around like 1860. Or at least based on what we know, we
Oh.
think it could be a heat burst, and it happened in 1860. So this is like
Okay.
the first officially recorded thing we have where it said, quote, a hot wind extending around 100 yards in width lately passed through the middle of Georgia and scorched up the cotton crops on a number of plantations. A hot wind also passed through a section of Kansas. It burned up the vegetation in its track, and several people fell victim to its poisonous blast. It lasted for a very short period, during which the thermometer stood at 120,
Ew.
which big fan of calling the really hot wind a poisonous blast.
That that's so valid. I think that that's
You
a very
know,
reasonable way to describe that personally.
I do too.
people just don't write the way we used to.
Well,
I know,
and
that's what I was
yeah,
thinking.
and it just and I think that's a fair assessment. Like when it gets really hot, I at least get really like lethargic, which is like
Hmm.
kind of what one would anticipate from being poisoned. So I think it's a fun little descriptor of what that feels like.
Well,
Yeah.
Morgan and I were
When they
starting,
say fell victim, did they mean die or just like
I think just were affected by it. It's
Just
also,
had
okay.
the displeasure of experiencing.
they didn't
Ah, yes.
elaborate.
I feel like they would have elaborated if people died. Like, I
Yeah.
just knowing
True.
how, like, I have definitely seen. I mean, we named it the Children's Blizzard when we had a really bad blizzard that killed a bunch of children. Like, I feel like there would have been some additional
Yeah.
explanation if that would have been a factor, just based on how we respond to other weather
hmm
events.
It's also 1860 where
Yeah.
the medicinal language was very, you know, I
Questionable.
and like obviously people were dumb. People had like summer clothes and winter clothes. But even if you're like dressed for a nice day, you're not expecting it to get up to 120 degrees. People probably got overheated and like were
Yeah.
sick from o being overheated.
Yeah.
And like to have a super high temperature change. I mean, I have days that I leave my house dressed for what the weather's like, and then 5 hours later, I walk outside and I'm like, I am not dressed for this weather today. So like,
hmm
regardless of like what the weather even would be, that much temperature change, like it's hard to find an outfit that is appropriate for that big of a range of temperature.
Yeah. Uh, I think of when we were both getting started in grad school, like literally the first 2 weeks where it was just soup time, where
Yes.
it was so humid and hot, and we were in the library, which is blessedly cold, and I was starting like grad stuff, and I have my like new academic year, so I got to get in the fall mood, and I'm just here with my little fall jazz, like cool vibes, while it's like 100 degrees outside.
It's a
Yeah,
million degrees, but
it
it won't
was
stop me.
it was rough. And like I don't know, seasons are just so weird of like in your head, like September is fall, but like the actual change of season isn't always like what we by month consider to be seasonal times and stuff. So that gets a little funky, but yeah. So like it's hard to be prepared for
Yeah.
whatever temperature change you may be there, and that's a lot of temperature change in a
It
very short
is.
Yeah.
window of time.
And what like the meteorological like seasonal definitions are compared to like
Yeah,
maybe what we would associate with like
calendar like
solstices and stuff like that is
hmm
different
I
too.
I also think there's something to be said for like the way temperatures feel is affected by what you're used to. So like when you
True.
hit the beginning of winter, when it drops down to 20 degrees, you're like, it's pretty cold out. And then it hits like springtime and it hits 20 degrees and you're like, man, it's kind of warm. I think I could maybe just go out with a sweatshirt, to be honest with you. And it
hmm
feels very different because you were used to it feeling colder in like primary winter. And so as it starts to hit spring, it feels like it's warming up. And so like if the temperature you were used to changes that fast, like your body doesn't really acclimate very well. And so it's gonna feel even hotter than it technically is because your body didn't like slowly get there. It just spiked.
Yeah. We had
Well, and
that
it's the same,
this week. Or go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, it's just the same thing as like when it's October and you get that like
Yeah.
25-degree
Yeah.
day after having the 60s
Yeah.
and you're
You're like,
like this
ooh.
is like I'm so cold right now, let me get out my big coat, and it's like
Yeah.
25 degrees, which is
Yeah.
not big coat weather later in the
And then
season.
like yeah, like
No.
midwinter, it's like I don't know, 15 degrees out and you're like, it's not below zero anymore. It's pretty nice actually. Like I don't it really breaks your scale. And so like I feel like that much of a change, it would feel even worse than it maybe actually
Yeah.
was because it changed so fast.
The
Mhm.
body does not do well with sudden change.
And like we do better than lots of other species do, just like being mammals and having a little bit of more
hmm
of a regulation system. But like
Yeah.
humans also have like a very small window that we want our body temperature to be before our body goes, this is not right, this is not okay.
We're
Um,
not fish,
yeah,
but
but we're not super chill with it either.
Yeah.
yeah.
You with pressure, you could say the similar stuff about like there's like altitude affects a lot of people differently.
Yeah,
Very quick altitude changes are terrible for you. And that's why like
yeah,
hmm
obviously uh like air cabins are pressurized so that you aren't feeling the effects of the fact you're at like 10,000.
Yeah. And you'll see that too with like sports and stuff. So like you'll have teams that are like more coastal that'll go play in like Denver and they are like it is
Yeah.
hard to go and play and run and do physical activity when you're used to being at sea level or even below sea level for some of them
Hmm.
and then going to pretty high altitudes. So
Especially
there's
after such, yeah, like
yeah,
such a short amount of time. So yeah,
yeah.
it would be, I could not blame anybody for having a terrible reaction to like this much of a heat change in such a short
Yeah.
amount of time. Like
Mhm.
typically these happen in a matter of minutes or hours. There is no way for you to get acclimated to anything of the sort.
Well, and
Yeah.
especially like with the primary case we're looking at, the amount of places with AC at that point in time wouldn't have been like it wouldn't have been as kind of universal as air
Hmm.
conditioning tends to be in the United States now. There's still places in the United States that don't have air conditioning, and there's lots of places
Yeah.
elsewhere in the world that don't. But it would have been a lot more predominantly, I think, people waking up in the middle of the night going, "Why is my house so warm?"
Yeah.
instead of like a temperature system in their home kind of correcting and adapting for it to where they maybe wouldn't notice.
Well, and then was there like a power outage that like took out
Yes.
the
Yeah.
ACs too?
So like even
So,
if you
Yeah.
had it, you were
yeah.
They
still
they couldn't
screwed.
do anything with it because the
Yeah.
power went out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Jeez.
sounds like a bad time. Like I don't know. And like that's it was a short enough time frame that it for the most part wouldn't be the end of the world, but like really high temperatures for a lot of people can be really, really dangerous, like depending on
Hmm.
health
They are very
conditions and
dangerous.
age and yeah. So there
Well, and
definitely would
then
be concern there if you don't know what's happening, why it changed so fast, and how long it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
well, and a couple of years ago, like a bunch of people passed away, like died because in Texas
Yeah.
because they didn't have their heating went out and everything during
Yeah,
the
the
like
ice
really
storm.
cold weather.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They had some
So,
infrastructural problems that made that a lot worse than it
Yeah,
yeah.
should have been. Um, so I could see where that would be a problem.
definitely. Um, we did have a little bit of a funny temperature shifting. So we had beautiful weather for like all the week, really until today. It got colder, the wind was blowing. It was not fun to be outside. I had to be outside with the kids every morning. It was not my favorite day for that. And they were not having it because we had these nice mornings, like 50
Yeah.
something, 60 something degrees, where you can not have a coat on or you can have a light sweatshirt and be perfectly fine. And so it's windy. It's like 40 something feels like purely 40 or 38 or something like that. And a
Yeah.
kid literally goes, "Is it negative out?" I'm like, "No, bud. It just is that big of a temperature change that it
Yeah.
shocks your body." And there's all these kids in shorts and I'm like, "I'm sorry. We gotta stick it out. I'm
Yeah.
sorry."
I
But
mean, it
they're
was
fine.
definitely disconcerting to go from going to work wearing like a dress and like a cardigan to like walking outside in a sweater and a coat to scrape the ice and snow off of my car this morning. It's like,
Uh-huh.
what is
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Currently
Well,
it's like 40 here.
yeah. I mean, also for like kids too, like kids' bodies like don't regulate temperature
Yeah.
as well
Oh, for
either.
sure, no.
Hmm.
So that's like it's like as adults we are uncomfortable and then
Yeah.
like kids like their physiology
They just
doesn't.
have less body mass to like maintain heat
Yeah.
and stuff
It's true.
and regulate their own temperature.
We were only out there for like 20 minutes. Like they
Yeah.
were okay, but
They're
They're okay, but
fine.
like it would have been,
yeah,
you could feel it.
I got
Yeah.
how that totally definitely sucked. Like it I agree that it was probably terrible. And I felt terrible,
I
so I
was a
know they did.
child once. I think stuff like
Yeah.
that happened when I was a child as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I just thought it was like, is it negative out?
This is
No.
negative.
If it was negative, we wouldn't be
Yikes.
outside. Yeah, we do have a couple more modern cases of heat bursts very close to us, actually, or the relative to the college area of the most southeastern point of South Dakota. Go Yotes. Um, so a little further, but very close to me. This hit home because they said the name of the town, and I know the town. I grew up about like an hour and a half or so around away from the town. And so I felt like I was like, "You're in my house. You're talking about me."
This is
Um,
getting a little too local.
yeah. There was a dude recently who like must have performed at a place around here and was like, "Here's the bridge." And I was like, "Get
I
out
saw
of my
that video.
house.
I saw
Go
that video.
away."
Yeah.
Like that really, I was like, "No. It's weird when it's Sioux Falls. It is way
Yeah.
weirder when it's literally where I live. It's
Yeah.
literally down the street."
Yeah.
When you're in more rural areas for sure. Like it's not like it's like New York
Yeah.
or something where you
Yeah.
anticipate seeing it in media. It is definitely a little different.
Yeah.
I met someone who went to college at SDSU here, and I was like, "What do you mean?"
Like
And then I
that's
made fun of them for South Dakota State University's just terrible, terrible choice in homecoming days.
Honestly,
yeah.
as you should.
Yes, as
Deeply
you should.
problematic. And then they had to explain it in a human rights class, which was really funny.
Oh, that's
I
great. I
can see
love
that
that
I'm
they
being a
made
like,
them do
struggle.
that.
SDSU takes the L on that one.
Yeah, that's
Get
fair.
bent, Jax. Anyways. So more relatively close to us in Atlantic, Iowa. On August
Okay.
23rd, 2011, the temperatures very suddenly spiked. At 5:55 p.m., the temperature was 84 degrees with a 5 mile per hour wind and dew point of 75, which again is very gross humidity.
That is disgusting.
After 5 minutes, the wind picked up to 20 miles per hour and the temp rose a pretty, like, not that bad, like 2 degrees. However, this continued to ramp up, and around 6:15, the temps rose to 93 and the dew point dropped to 54. By 7:05, the temp rose all the way up to 102 degrees. The wind got up to 60 miles per hour, and the dew point went down to 7 degrees.
That
Oh, geez.
sounds horrible.
It is like the most like it lets you know like we talked about, it's like all the rain is evaporated, or it's like a very dry wind. That shows you just how dry the dew point dropped from like humid to dry, like the driest dry it could be. Um,
So there
and
was 75 to what was the
to
final?
7, to 7 for
That
the
is
dew point.
egregious. That
That's
would be rough.
60,
Yeah, the
60 something.
the temperature,
68.
yes, and the temperature rose 18 degrees, almost 20 degrees over the course of like an hour and 5 minutes. Um, it did subside after that. I did love that the local weather report, I didn't quote anything else, but just their hook for the story was just weird weather gets Iowans talking.
That is so
Like
small town
The
Midwest of
most,
them.
that's the most Midwestern thing I've ever heard.
it's like that's very true. As a
Yep, that seems correct to me personally.
born and raised,
Yeah.
I still talk about the weather at work a lot. I don't
Yeah.
know. Sometimes I don't know what
It
else to talk
just,
about.
yeah, it's just a thing. I mean, like, I think it becomes such a cultural thing amongst rural states because so many people are involved in agriculture. And weather
hmm
is such a big deal for agriculture that it just
Mhm.
is like a very ingrained societal thing to talk about the weather. But also, we have temperatures that go from, a couple hundred degrees to like -20. And so when you have that big of a window over the year, I think it's a little easier to be like, wow, this weather, when compared to like San Francisco, where you're like, yep, it's 60 degrees again.
hmm
Same
Mhm.
as it was last week and the week before.
The Midwest is Midwesting as usual.
Yeah.
Um, locals reported in that news coverage that similar to the Copperell testimonies, it felt like when you open your oven after you preheated it, or someone else said it's like you just turn on a heater and have it blowing in your face. Like that's how the wind felt.
Notably, that is,
Yeah.
in my opinion, a fairly bad feeling. Like I dislike when I forget to like back off when I open the oven door. I find that very upsetting
Yeah.
personally.
I do
So
too.
like
When I'm
I
not
do,
prepared for it.
that's
Oh.
a very visceral description to me of something I would not like.
Hmm.
'Cause it's like the feeling of when you walk out of a movie theater and it's still
Yeah.
daytime,
Yeah, and it's
but
bright
Yeah.
like in
outside and you're like, ooh.
temperature. But
Yeah.
I mean, like I don't find that to be an unpleasant feeling coming out of a movie theater, but like it's the same type of like jarring
Hmm.
shift
Yeah.
for your
And
body.
A matinee
yeah.
makes me forget it is in fact
The
4 in
middle of
the
the day.
afternoon when I'm
Yeah.
leaving the theater.
That's fair.
Getting out of Iron Lung when Braden and I went and watched it, and it was the middle of the day was weird.
Yeah.
Um, I did see it at night when I went and saw it the first time, and then I drove home in relative silence while I thought about it. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. The and then so there's other heat bursts in other places that have been recorded since. And we have more data on them. We have like data and graphs and stuff from the Atlantic, Iowa event. We also have some records from Australia, Arizona, and New Mexico were the ones that I could confirm for sure. There's probably others. Very close to home. Apparently, the highest rise in temperature ever recorded was a heat burst
Oh,
in Sioux Falls around 4
mhm.
a.m. on August
Yeah.
3rd in 2008.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Because they just needed something else going on in 2008.
yes.
Yeah. You
Uh,
know, nothing crashing already or anything.
not at all. So, low people who were camp must have been camping because again, it was like 4 in the morning, but like we're around Wall Lake. Um, they reported that like the wind picked up and the temperatures rose from 70 to 101 in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's really not it.
That also
Jeez.
coincided with a huge pressure drop, which again we saw in the Copperell incident and I think was probably the combination of the two. But I think more than the wind, I think that the insane pressure change is what probably caused like some of the like glass
Yeah.
to shatter.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's like both things, but
Yeah.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, that's just an insane temperature
yeah.
change to go through for any material.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because during the Copperell event, the farmer that had like let people into his cellar had said that when he woke up, it was because his ears were popping.
That
Oh yeah.
that would be a very weird feeling. Like I
Yeah.
living in
It
the hills,
sounds
there's a lot of like you'll have your ears pop just because there is a fair amount of elevation change sometimes when you go between places, but to just like sit in the same spot and have that same like pressure change would be really
Hmm.
weird. Like I feel like that'd be
well,
awfully trippy,
I
especially
mean,
for Sioux Falls.
to like wake up in that though, I feel like I would like assume that there's something wrong with my ear. Like I
Yeah.
just
What's wrong
Yeah.
burst
with
my
me?
eardrum or something like
Yeah.
that.
Is
Hmm.
there a bug in there? Like what happened?
Oh,
Terrible. Yeah. When we went
it's
and visited in December, I had
Yeah.
the sudden onset of a cold, and I was so
Yeah.
congested the day we were going to see
oh,
Crazy Horse. And
Yeah.
I have never felt so weird in my life where we were going uphill and my nose was just like, what are we doing? Like, I was just so congested. And then we'd go
Yeah.
downhill and it'd alleviate a little bit. And then we
Yeah.
go back up and it would go up again.
Yeah, and so like I think I would be really, really disconcerted if my body like reacted like that without me going somewhere.
Hmm. It would be. Yeah, very strange. Like there are other weather events, especially stuff to do with like obviously lightning and like thunder that can cause big pressure changes, but usually not to that like extent where you're having like I more so think of that in like a fantasy sense where people are like, "Oh, like someone has lightning powers, the pressure drops. You can like taste the
Yeah.
ozone," which I think could probably happen if you were close to a lightning strike,
Yeah.
God forbid, but
Yeah.
it's not something you really hear about as much in real life.
Yeah.
So,
But
Like,
people do talk about like who are like, who have been struck by lightning having like the metallic taste,
yeah, which I
don't
think is
they?
really,
I
yes.
mean, even if you're not
Very
right next
eerie.
to it though, like you can feel like
Mm-hmm.
in summer, at least in the Midwest, like when it's gonna storm, you can feel when it's gonna be a big thunderstorm or you're gonna get
Yeah.
Yeah.
hail or you can tell that the clouds are turning kind of green. You're like, that's gonna be
Well,
a sketchy storm. Like there
oh,
definitely
definitely.
is
Mm.
a level of feeling to that, but to have that onset that fast without expecting it would be
Yeah.
it's
Well, and
yeah.
people with like people who've had like broken bones and stuff like that, they definitely talk about that. Like my dad
Yeah.
broke
Yeah.
his pelvis and he can feel all of the like big weather changes in his body because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandma gets it in her knee when it's rainy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that is the crazy weather phenomenon, the heat burst, so nicknamed Satan's Storm because of the time it happened in Texas, in Copperell. So, what are our thoughts on such an event, such an occasion?
I'm just really opposed to being sweaty as a person, and this sounds terrible to me, especially at night. I want it to be cold and I want to have my blankets, and I would be so mad if I woke
Yeah.
up in the middle of the night
Yeah,
and was that sweaty. I would feel deep, intense rage. And if I didn't know why it was happening, I would be even more angry. So at least now I know in the future if I were to live through this, which I would still prefer not to.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, this sounds like wildly uncomfortable. I'm glad nobody was like hurt though or had
Yeah,
like serious injury or anything though. That's good.
yeah,
Hmm.
Um, because I feel like and also like, good for that guy who was like a valuable member of his community and opened his cellar to other
yeah.
people.
I also would
Cool to
say
hear
Yeah.
there's
about
something
that.
to be said for it being an evening time thing of like at least people were probably less likely to be like needing to drive and things. So like
Hmm.
if things in your car are like boiling, um
True.
like I'm glad at least there were less people like out and about in probably more dangerous situations than they would have been at home.
Yeah. Uh, I don't have it quoted, but one funny final note on the guy in his cellar. There, one of the women who was in the interview, she was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I was, 'cause he had been like, yeah, I went down there. We got a half bed, you know. I was like, I'll just sleep in the storm cellar just to be safe." She was like the second person who came, and he's like, "Yep, I saw him in his shorts."
I mean, to be fair, it would have been really warm.
That's
That's a
really
very
funny.
valid thing to do,
Yeah,
I would say.
I think
Yeah.
he that means like
Yeah,
his like
yeah,
underwear, but I
I
thought that was
presume,
really
but
funny.
that is funny.
I would
Good little
also be
detail
in
to
my underwear.
include.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
live
is
on the third floor of a building and it gets like we get all of the hot air from the other floors
hmm
and we have not had our heat on if it is above like 30 degrees.
Fair. Yeah, I
And then we
definitely
also
have.
have the windows open.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've
Yeah.
definitely been some places that like just the ambient temperature based on what everyone else seems to set their stuff to makes me feel like I need to open my windows in winter.
hmm
Yep.
Braden will often have his window open in his room.
Yeah.
And like I can deal with it being like I like it being cool in here, but I'm like a set at 70. Like a set at 70 most times of the year unless there's extenuating circumstances. Because once it gets below like 68, I'm like it's cold in here. it's summer and I want a blanket, which sometimes is the vibe. But when I'm
I
like trying to get ready for the day and I'm like, I'm gonna put on pants and then I get outside and I'm like, no.
Yeah, like I do like to be so cozy with a blanket, but it's hard to like make yourself get out of bed when it's really cold in the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
hmm
But yeah, weather is weird. There's so
Other,
I
many
love,
odd phenomenon.
yeah. I love weird weather events though.
I do too. I
It's
think they're
like
so neat.
it's just like some of the last like truly wild parts of being on planet Earth.
Yeah, they're very cool. I'm glad I do I like disasters and tornadoes and stuff like as like a topic. So this was fun to do a little bit of like kind of weather related stuff. It's not a interest I talk about much, so it was fun to research it for this. Um yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, had a good time listening to us talk about Satan's storm and heat bursts and weird weather. Um we will have something else to talk about next time we're here. But if this is your first time tuning in, uh, we talk about something unexplained, unsolved, or unnatural every time we post on Hypothetically Speaking. We have a decent backlog at this point of around like a modest 10 or so episodes if you're interested in anything from jellyfish to like the dancing plague. We have lots of fun stuff you can check out if you are so inclined. Anyways, I've been Bree,
I've been Morgan.
And I've been Allison.
and we had the that brief Brayden cameo. Benny's been Benny. He's been here the
Yes.
whole time.
Tilly was yowling at one point. Um, now she's laying under a blanket. So,
I was
Gotta love
glad,
a guest star cat.
yes, I was glad they weren't scrapping anymore by the time we started. They were getting into it earlier.
oof.
It's like the thing where you hear them like toss each other and someone goes like,
Oof.
"Rawr." It's like, okay, maybe it's time to break it up. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's it for me, unless we have any other comments.
I
Yeah.
don't think
Well,
so.
I liked the topic. It was a good topic.
I'm glad you liked it. I thought it was a cool to do something that is like relatively unknown. That was pretty fun to do something where I
Mhm.
really did have to kind of like scrounge for information on it to make it a full-fledged episode. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for being here. We will be here again sometime soon. Uh, until then, do your best, cite your sources. Um, I still don't really have like an outro for this, but stay cool.
Uh,
And
Stay cool, pony boy.
stay cool, Pony Boy. If the clouds start turning, go inside.
yeah. Pay attention to weather. Maybe check it every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go watch Twister after this.
Valid use of time.
Hmm. Which one?
The original one.
Fair.
I recently watched The Princess Bride, which
Ah,
is
so good.
not thematically similar, but for some reason I feel like is vibe similar.
They're both very special to me, and they're both like over the top in their own genre. They both mean a lot to me, so I get you.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.